right, hell with it. That's enough of all that badass music. Unhappy Monday, everybody. Coming to you live from my humble abode here. This is the Unhappy Gilmore Show, powered by Green Legion Radio, part of the Green Legion Radio family. We thank you, as always, from wherever you may be and whatever device you're using to stream us on YouTube. So please pull up a chair. Turn up the volume if you need to. Use the company dime if you are at work, stuck at work, or otherwise. Crack open a cold one if you're off for the whole week and that's your thing on a Monday night. And let's try to have some fun as we put an end to the worst day of the hostage situation and look forward to getting on to day 2, which is Monday's ugly stepsister. No Mason tonight. We not quite same page as far as work schedule, conflicting schedules this week. So he's got to work. He wasn't going to be able to do this until about 7 o'clock. I really can't do it that late this week. Really 7 o'clock's kind of late, like any week, but this week in particular, it's just not going to work. Last week we didn't do the show, Christmas and all, Grady being home. This week, I wanted to make sure we got one in this week. Unfortunately, Mason's not able to join us tonight. And I told him, it's okay. Like, I'm not expecting like some huge turnout here, man. It's it's a holiday week. You got people traveling, you got people with folks in town, or they're with their folks, whatever the case may be. Everybody's off, having a good time, all sitting home. If you didn't work, it's that time of year between Christmas and New Year's where you're sitting home, you don't know what day it is, you're full of chocolate and cheese, it's ripping ass all over the place. So that's I said, don't worry about it, but it's it's all right. But yes, this is the last show of the year as we will ring in the new year this Wednesday night. Grady is with us for just a few more days. He'll fly back on Sunday. Keenan, you don't sound healthy, but my voice is a little so game yesterday. I'm screaming and yelling. Allergies have got me a little stuffed up here. It got up to like 60 and 70 degrees over the last couple of days, so I've had a little congestion from that, but overall I'm fine. Just worn out. Yesterday being what it was, the early evening full of cardiac arrest and yelling and screaming, trying to help pump up my crowd out here with the Midwest Eagles Nest. So I am all good, brother. It's just another Monday. Who else is in the room? Lou from Dade. What's up, brother? Unhappy last few days of 2025. Keenan in the room. Lou Mancini. Hey, everyone. David Loeb. Joe Burns. Detroit, please win. And a happy, healthy new year. I'm ready for 2026. I'm sure we all are. Lou Mancini, I'm pretty much partied out. Looking forward to relaxing the rest of the year. Keenan, that game had me kicking the dog's stuffed animals. Oh, better to stuffed animals than the dog. All right, let's get down to it here real quick so we can get on to the unfun stuff. Everyone, Michelle's favorite part of the show. She'll be stepping out here to go help our neighbor here in just a minute, but wanted to get this in before she left. We are proudly sponsored by Cheerleaders Gentlemen's Club, located at 2740 South Front Street in Philadelphia. Just minutes away from the sports complex. Cheerleaders brings you the area's most beautiful women on 5 different stages. Open 7 days a week from noon until 2 a.m. and until 4 a.m. on Fridays and Saturdays. For group information, call 215-467-1980. Reserve a private booth and a party package. Also offering free parking, a full menu, daily drinking food specials, and a premium selection of cigars and a cigar lounge. If you're looking for your favorite place to watch, looking for a place to watch the birds, and you don't want to, last game of the year coming up, you can't exactly afford to black market your kidney, head on over to Cheerleaders and enjoy the 75-foot HD TV wall, as well as HD TV screens throughout the entire club. Once again, folks, that's Cheerleaders Gentlemen's Club, located at 2740 South Front Street in Philadelphia. Call 215-467-1980 for all of your group and party information. GreenLegion.com, bottom of the screen, always bottom of the screen whenever we're live here. You got one game left. It's a home tailgate. I don't know if it's sold out yet or not, but if it's something you're interested in, head on over to greenlegion.com, click on trips and tailgates, home tailgates, get yourself signed up, head on over to Stateside Live and enjoy the best home tailgate that Philadelphia has to offer. And keep your eyes peeled for the away trips for any playoff games. Obviously, regardless of whether we're able to get the 2 seed or we stay at the 3, we're going to have our first game at home in the playoffs. So you look for that tailgate as well. If we end up on the road, keep an eye out, greenlegion.com. Subscribe to all of our social media and make sure you are following that to get all of your information on upcoming events. greenlegion.com, the Green Legion, the best and longest tenured in the business. There is not a better way to take in a Birds game, be it on the road or with the home tailgate. I promise. Who else in the room? Dev is here. What's up, brother? Yeah, hell of a game yesterday, huh? David Loeb, blocked extra point by Jalen Carter was awesome. 100% agree. Honestly, that's what forces Buffalo to go for. Well, they didn't force them to go for 2. They decided to go for 2, but it's what put that on the table. Russ Taylor, what Wawa merch is that to your right? Oh, I forgot. It's just a little book. We got this at the grand opening. Lessons from the Flock. Usually sits right here on my desk, but I was cleaning it off, so I had to set it here for just a second. Let's see here. Lou from Day Keenan, we're getting a cold front. Expected to be in the 50s down here. I hate you. I just so it was like 73 degrees here yesterday. Then the windstorm came in and the temperature started dropping, and it has dropped throughout the day today. When I left the house this morning, it was about 30 degrees, and now I think it's like 20. I mean, it is just it's so cold out there with the wind and everything that it just like hurts your feeling. It's hurtful cold out there. Like I can't stand it anymore. Keaton at David Loeb, the defense was spectacular. I could feel the pain they were putting on them Bills. Everyone was knocking the crap out of them boys. Yes, sir. All right. Folks, look, we're going to just get right into it here. We'll worry about college football in a little while. We'll talk Birds here first. I will be perfectly honest with you. Yeah, Lou, we're getting the win. The win came through here. Basically, whatever you get, figure that we got it the day before, at least 12 hours before you. As far as the game yesterday, guys, I wasn't really sure what to expect going into that. Now, obviously, you got 2 games left. The 2 seed still somewhat on the table, although Chicago had to lose out. But you can't sit everybody for 2 weeks, right? Like they've got to play. I honestly feel like maybe they went into that game yesterday and said, let's just see what we can do. If we've got a lead, we'll continue to go for it. But if we're down, I have a feeling if we were down a bunch, in that third quarter, I think you see Nick pull the starters. I can tell you myself and a couple other folks, Josh, Roger, and a few other folks with the Midwest Eagles nest out here yesterday. You watch Britton Covey get splattered, and he gets hit in the leg. You watch Saquon, roll around the ground writhing for a minute. You watch Smitty do the same thing. Jalen Phillips, same thing. 4 guys, and it was like, dude, when is enough going to be enough? I mean, how much do you really want to flirt with disaster here? And to their credit, they went for it, and they got it. No thanks to the offense, at least not in the second half anyways. Jesus Christ. But I didn't know what to expect. And so we win the game, and lo and behold, Chicago loses. So 2 seeds still on the table, right? So now you kind of have to go for it. And, NFL, knowing what's going on, they released the schedule for next week. Not only are we at 425, but so is Chicago, Detroit. So we don't get the luxury of knowing ahead of time, right? Had they kept that Chicago-Detroit game at 1, and say Chicago wins, well, then you don't play anybody, right? You pull all the starters and have them sit, and all the second string is in. But we're going to be playing at the same time on Sunday. So, yes, I do believe you're going to see some scoreboard watching coming from Nick and the rest of the coaching staff. You got to be concentrated on the game. You got to take care of your own. But there's you got to keep an eye on that game. If Chicago at halftime is up by like 24 points, because both things have to happen. The Birds have to win and Chicago has to lose in order for us to get the 2 seed. So if Chicago's up a bunch going late in, maybe at the end of 3 quarters, you're probably pulling the starters at that point and you're just a 3 seed and you move on. I would like to continue to point out for some folks here, and Lou, I'm going to get to your comment in just a minute. 2 weeks ago, well, not yesterday, the week before, we played Washington, and that 2-point conversion obviously pissed them off. Now we're in a spot where if you want the 2 seed, you're going to have to play everybody, and they're going to be out for blood. And you get a guy like Frankie Louvu who has, he took that cheap shot on Jalen last year and concussion, right? He was the idiot jumping over the line of scrimmage when we're trying to tush push our way into the end zone. It makes me uneasy. I think we all know that guys will take shots at other guys. But when you add the extra fire from that 2-point conversion, which obviously pissed them off, and I got asked a couple of times, why the hell did you do that? I'm like, because we're dicks. It's just what we do. It makes me nervous going into that game. So, look, if the Bears all of a sudden start getting beat up, and let's be honest, wouldn't it just be the most Bears thing ever for them just needing to win one of the final 2 games to ensure themselves? But that it would be the most Bears thing ever for them to lose both and have us win out and take that 2 spot from. Now, look, is there a benefit to the 2 seed over the 3? Yeah, there is. The 2 seed, as long as you win, you're pretty much guaranteed 2 home games, right? Because you'll be at home against the 7, which at this point is Green Bay. And then you would play at home again the following week against likely Chicago or whoever the 3 is. There is a benefit. There's no question about that. But, man, you got to be awfully careful. So I do expect Nick to be scoreboard watching during our game. As Captain Demp said earlier, he's like, oh, great. Another thing for the coaching staff to be distracted from. And let's be honest, at least on the offensive side of the ball, he ain't wrong, man. Because this game yesterday was right back to brutal again. Like, you 2 decent weeks blowing out bad football teams, which is what you're supposed to do, right? Don't get me wrong. But the Raiders are awful. Washington's not good. And then, you got to go to Buffalo, and they're tough. And here we are right back to the way we looked, in weeks before that. I get the couple of victories over the Raiders and Washington. Everybody wants to feel good about it. But I just overall, I have not seen anything that leads me to believe that this offense is poised for a deep run in this playoffs. I'm sorry. When we've played good teams, what you saw yesterday has become the norm, right? Whereas last season, it didn't matter who the fuck we played once we got rolling. That was it. It just didn't matter. We just crushed everybody. I don't know. Lou Mancini, I say don't go for it. Screw seedings. If you want to be the best, you got to beat the best. Yeah, that's true. But I think they've shown us they are going for it. So, Lou, you and I can be on the same page with that, maybe defer a little bit, but bottom line is if they weren't going for it, I think you would have seen the starters come out around halftime yesterday, maybe the end of the third quarter, which is kind of I was kind of almost expecting it. But they didn't do that, right? Starters stayed out there the whole game, and here we are. So they are going for it. They're going to try to get that 2 seed, and they're going to hope that Chicago trips up one more time against Detroit. So that's what we have to look at going forward. How is this team going to beat Washington, and is Chicago really going to lose to Detroit? I don't know. Russ Taylor, I would love for them to turn the scoreboard off. So there we have two very polarizing comments, right? One on either end of the spectrum. You have Lou, who's like, fuck it. We're the 3 seed. That's good enough. We're going to get the one home game, and then we'll take our chances on the road after that, provided, the favorites keep winning. And then you have Russ, who's like, shut the scoreboard off. Go for it, right? I mean, look, they're going to go for it. That much is obvious by what they did yesterday. So I don't that much is obvious by how much everyone played yesterday, not by so much by what they did. Keenan, did the Bills hold us to 1 first down in the second half, or did we hold ourselves to that? I think the answer to that question is yes. Credit the Bills defense, but I don't know how much credit I want to give the Bills defense. I personally, and Lou Dominguez, you weigh in here. You're our AFC East guy. I personally feel like the Bills defense is overrated. I think it gets a lot of clout because of who the head coach is, McDermott. That's his side of the ball, and the Bills have had a lot of success. But if you've seen these games where they're up against good offenses, they get lit up, dude. And I'm not sure that they're as good as everybody thinks they are. And then you put Josh Allen, who he didn't have a bad day, right? 23 of 35, 262, no touchdowns. But he just made big knucklehead decisions in huge spots, dude. That one why he didn't take off and run, I don't know. He chooses to try to come back around. We dump him. Overall, we dump him 5 times for a loss of 51 yards. I mean, just rough, dude. Absolutely rough. He does scramble 7 times, 27 yards, the 2 push-in touchdowns. You think we have a luxury with Jalen Hurts being able to squat like that. Josh Allen's 6'5", 240 pounds. He doesn't need a whole lot of help. And then he gets it, right? So I'm not really sure with that. I just don't think the Bills defensively are as good as everybody thinks they are. And they are 100% dependent on Josh Allen to not screw up on the offensive side. As good as James Cook is, if you can take him away, and the Birds did a very good job of that yesterday. 20 carries, 74 yards. That's the league's leading rusher. So we did a great job there. So if you can take Cook away and be able to pressure Allen, which is what we did successfully yesterday, he'll make mistakes. He gets wild. And if he doesn't have that run game to lean on, he doesn't have a whole lot of other weapons. He's got good tight ends, but that receiving group, I was a little surprised Brandon Cooks did what he did, 4 catches, 101 yards. That was annoying. Overall, I really like Josh Allen. I do. He can get very erratic. For a guy that talented, he just doesn't have that number 1 stud wide receiver. Ever since Diggs left, things are a little bit different there. Lou Dominguez not going to go for putting up 13 points in 60 minutes. That is very, very true. And Bills aren't even that good this year, honestly. My Finns put up 30 on them with freaking Tua. So therein lies my point, right? That defense can get scored upon frequently, right? It does happen. Oh, Grady's home. I'm surprised. See if he wants to stop in here and say hi to you guys for a minute when he comes in the door. Russ Taylor, just remember, we are not Dolphins, Jets, Bengals, Browns, Colts, Titans, Raiders, Chiefs, Cowboys, Commanders, Giants, Vikings, Lions, Falcons, Saints, Cardinals. No, we decided to score 13 points. Too soon, Russ. But yes, postseason berth. It was eliminated. Russ again. Ironic the Bills voted against the tush push, but they used the snowplow. Keenan, yeah, Grady says so. Hopefully, we'll see what happens when he comes through the door. If he wants to pop over and just come on in and say hi. Life 360 it just showed he got home, so I wasn't really expecting him home tonight. But anyways, so the game yesterday. Look, first half. Okay, look, the weather was sloppy. Okay, it's gonna get yucked up a little bit. We scored 13 points. We're up 13-0 at halftime. Feeling pretty good. And the second half comes, and we had. Where's my drive chart? Where are the drives? There it is. Let's see. 13, 15, 19, 17, 16 yards of total offense in the second half. Now, you could call it 17. We're splitting hairs here, right? But you can call it 17. The final -1 is the kneel down at the end. But either way, it's atrocious, right? So the first half, where our first two drives were 3-and-out punt, then 5 plays, 17 yards punt. Then we go touchdown, field goal, up 13-0. Second half, punt, 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 kneel down to end the game. If you look at the overall team stats from this game, okay? So Buffalo had 20 first downs. We had 11. Buffalo, 33 carries, 120 yards, 2 touchdowns. Philly, 26 carries, 82 yards, no touchdowns. Buffalo passing, 23 of 35, 262. Birds, 13 of 27, 110, and a touchdown. We did dump them 5 times, and that's a key stat because it really took them out of any kind of field goal range. It took them away from being in a spot to be able to go for it on fourth down. Jalen only got dumped once for a loss of 2. Net passing yards for us, 108. For them, 211. That's that -51 on the sacks. That's a huge, huge number. Total yards, Buffalo 331, Philly 190. Turnovers, Buffalo fumbles once. We don't turn it over at all. Huge, huge stat. But third down conversions, Buffalo 6 of 15. Birds 3 of 13. Fourth down conversions, we never even attempted it. Buffalo 2 out of 3. Time of possession 35-15 for Buffalo, 24-45 for the Birds. If you just looked at that and didn't know the final score, you would think we got annihilated. Outside of the turnover. Now, when you dig it a little bit and you see the sack total and everything, you can dump a guy 5 times, but when you dump him 5 times and a bunch of them are huge impact, like they're in plus territory, and you knock them out of field goal range, or you knock them back too far to really legitimately go for it. That's what was happening on it. We came up with those plays in huge, huge spots. If you look at those team stats, you would think, Jesus Christ, the Buffalo, what did they win? 21-10? No, 13-12 Philly. I mean, it was a really odd, very, very stressful game yesterday. The series of mini heart attacks, the afternoons and evenings full of cardiac arrest, been this way all year, right? Outside of the game against, the second game against the Giants, the first game against the Commodes, apart from that, it's really been there has not been another week where there wasn't at least some level of stress all year long. We're just not putting it on anybody like we did last year, and it's frustrating. Now, do you expect to go to Buffalo and whip Buffalo's ass? No, of course not. But the way we played defensively, I mean, that offense, if it just played like an average offense, we probably blow them out. That was brutal watch yesterday. What's over here? Russ Taylor. We held the Bills to 12 points. A win is a win is a win. It was ugly and no injuries. I'll take it. Yeah, of course. We'll always take the win. No doubt. But God damn it. It's another week where this offense looks inept. I don't know. Is Kevin Patullo like a domestic terrorist at this point? Right? Should that be his classification? Because this is awful. We've said it all year long. You guys have been here all year long. There's far too much talent on the offensive side of ball. Look like this every week. It's just like you standing there. They're standing there in a shotgun formation, and it's just stick it in Saquon's chest on first and second down and tell him to go figure it out through like the A gap. Right? The play designs are shit, so it makes the blocking looks terrible. Right? There's just no creativity or anything with this offense at all. It's fucking terrible. And if us as armchair quarterback people can sit here and be like, it's going to be a run. They're going to try to throw that little out to the tight end on that one. What do you think opposing defenses are doing? Right? I mean, how long do you really think it takes them to prepare for this shit we run out there every week? It just feels like the opposing defense is always miles ahead of us. Saquon got off to a decent start, ends up 19 carries for 68 yards. So it's just more of the same again. On the defensive side of the ball, let's concentrate on some good shit here, right? Like I said, we did dump Josh 5 times. Twice by Jalix Hunt. Awesome. Phillips, Ojimo, and Carter, your other 3 sacks. We also hit him 6 more times. He had the fumble recovery. Jahad Campbell with 7 tackles and the forced fumble. Jalen Phillips, 6 tackles, the sack, and the fumble recovery. How great has he been for a 3rd-round pick? Coop and Marcus Epps, both with 9 stops yesterday. Epps, 8 of those were solo, including that huge one down near the goal line. Just an excellent play. Bond, solid as always with his 6 stops. But Dory Jackson, 2 passes defense, although, we get later in the game and that reared its ugly head again. One call out I am going to have here is the Sidney Brown experiment needs to be over. All right. When this season's done, it's time to jettison him out somewhere else. It just has not worked out. He's playing more special teams and kind of knuckleheadish there too. And then there was who's the idiot that grabbed the punt? So the ball's not even moving. Right? It's just sitting there on the half-yard line. This idiot runs up, puts his toe on the goal line, and grabs the ball. I could have screamed. I was so pissed. It was so bad. Quinion Mitchell, very quietly, 4 tackles, right? You don't hear his name all that often, but that's the best compliment you can pay a corner, is to never have to speak his name. They just don't throw over there all that much. And when they do, he usually makes the play. So, what do we got over here? Yeah, Lou, defense saved the day. No question about it, man. Once again, we have to, and look, that last drive that Buffalo went on, our defense was completely wiped out. They were gassed. You could see it. The fact that they were able to muster up enough juice to get pressure on Allen and get his feet moving on that 2-point conversion where he threw a wild pass. I don't know where they keep finding this energy from, but this defense is good enough to win a championship. The offense is not. And it's a shame because the talent is there, and it's the coaching staff, guys. We all know it. Yeah, we did do 3 consecutive runs. Yeah. Lou, again, got to be concerned about potentially going up against high-scoring offenses like the Niners, Rams, and even the Bears. I agree. Look, when you get to the second season and you get into that bracket, there are no Raiders on your schedule at that point. There's no Giants. There's no Commodes. There's none of that. It's just the best teams in your conference. And this is how we've looked against good teams. We've had to, you just keep asking this defense to bail you out of everything. Sooner or later, you're going to get burned. The Bears did it on Black Friday. we went into that game playing just outstanding defense, and they ran all over us that afternoon. It was brutal. It was one of those games where it was only a one-score game for like 3+ quarters, but it felt like you were down by like 25. It was just awful. But I agree with it. That shit's going to keep happening. Russ Taylor, Adam Schefter on ESPN this morning hinted they are holding back Jalen because they didn't want him taking hits during the season and will unlock him from the playoffs. He hinted at that. I don't buy that at all. And it's not the first time I've heard it, and I'm not even saying it's not possible. But how the hell do you hold a guy back for 17 fucking weeks? And then you just expect to flip the switch in the playoffs? Look, if that happens, two things. If that happens, one, obviously I'll be happy that we're letting loose and ripping teams apart again. But there's a 1A to that, too, where I'm going to be pissed that they put us through a whole season full of cardiac arrest, saving people for the playoffs. I don't know if I can buy that. I just don't know that I can that I can buy that all year long. I guess anything's possible, and I guess maybe we hope for the best with it, and maybe it's a fact, but I don't know. It's really, really hard to imagine that you would hold your entire, because it's not just you'd be holding your entire offense back, right? Like it's not just Jalen Hurts. Saquon has been limited. Well, now it shows Grady's not here. I don't know what the hell's going on. I don't know. It just showed he just got home, and then it showed he's not here. So I don't know what the hell's going on. Shows he's still out at Beckett Ridge. What the hell is he doing there? Maybe he's not here. Maybe Life 360 lied to me. But yeah, I don't know. It's hard to imagine that being the case. David Lowe, back-to-back Super Bowl is hard to do, but I think they can make it. Look, man, this offense is gonna have to wake up. Okay, whether they've been holding the offense back in anticipation of playoffs or not, whatever the case may be with that, the offense is going to have to wake up. You're not going to be able to. Lou Dominguez said it earlier. 13 points in 60 minutes is not going to win football games in the playoffs. It's just not. I would tell you, you're going to like 18, 17, 20 points per game in the playoffs is not going to be good enough. Now, it might be with this team. I mean, look, if you're going to tell me we're going to average 21 points a game in the playoffs, but that I'm going to control the ball for 35 to 40 minutes and that defense stays fresh, I got it. I think that's okay. It's still going to put us in a lot of cardiac arrest, but I think we are in good position at that point. But this 3-and-out shit, where that defense is just being left hanging out there to dry for an entire half of football, that can't continue. Or it's going to be an early and embarrassing exit. So, when you look at it right now, if we win and Chicago loses, remember, both of those things have to happen. We win and Chicago loses, we get the 2 seed, which would have Green Bay coming to Philadelphia once again in the playoffs. And we don't know about Jordan Love. We do know that Micah Parsons is done for the year. They did not look good. Baltimore ran all over them. So, if we end up the 3 seed, then things become a little different. Then you're looking at, is it right now would be the Rams, who also have not matched up well against us overall, right? They don't really have a good answer for A.J. Brown. Regardless of how inept our offense has looked, they can't cover him for whatever reason. They just can't cover him. Now, it's also possible if San Francisco trips up against Seattle, Frisco could end up being the 6. And I don't think I want to play San Francisco right now. Now, what I will say with Frisco They look very, very, very good. They look very strong. And if they happen to win on Sunday, they will be the number 1 seed. Um, so, pick your poison. Would you want to, the road to the Super Bowl would then go through Frisco. I think it's a little bit loaded with them, though. And I'm going to tell you why. Right now. Where the hell are they? San Francisco. There they are. All right. So coming into the year, there were 2 teams that looked like they were going to have a nice reversal of fortune. One kind of just starting to get back, and the other one trying to get healthy and get going. They had so happened to play the 2 weakest schedules in football. One of those 2 is the San Francisco 49ers. Okay. So they went at Seattle to start the year and won that game. This is before Seattle got hot. And they go to New Orleans. The Saints are terrible. And they go to Arizona, or they're home for Arizona. They win that game. They're 3-0 with wins against the Seattle team that was slow out of the gates and 2 abysmal teams. And they're home for Jacksonville, and they lose. Okay, Jacksonville's turned out to be pretty good. Win in overtime at the Rams. That's a good win. They go to Tampa and lose, right? They come back home and beat the Falcons. Then they go to Houston and lose. Then they go to the Giants and win. Then they're home for the Rams and lose. Since then, they have played at Arizona, home for Carolina, at Cleveland, home for Tennessee, at Indianapolis, home for Chicago. They've won all those games, but listen to these teams I just rattled off for you. Arizona. Carolina, having a better year. They're still not all that good. Cleveland. Tennessee. Indianapolis, who's fallen completely off the shelf. And then a nice win against Chicago last night. And then they're going to finish up the year against Seattle, right? Who's a good team. So, I mean, when you look at their schedule, what are the good wins? Overtime win at Los Angeles, got it. You want to give them the Panthers win, okay? The win last night against Chicago. I mean, are we counting that early season win, that first game of the year against Seattle? So you want to give them 4? And I get it, they're 12-4, but 8 of those victories, I would tell you it's 9 at least of those victories are against teams that just aren't all that good. So I look, and I'm not burying. Look, part of it is getting hot at the right time and feeling good about yourself going into that second season and all of that. But how really battle tested is this team? They're going to finish up at home against Seattle. Should they win that game? Now, this is a spot where Sam Darnold has normally been shit. He was in this same situation last year as the quarterback of the Vikings, and he was awful against that Detroit team. So see if he's any better this year now wearing a Seahawk uniform. But my money would be on Frisco because of the Darnold factor. But then they're going to get in the playoffs, and if Frisco, let's say they do win and they're the 1 seed, so they get the bye and they get the lowest seed coming through. Dude, that could be the Bears. It could be the Rams. It could be Seattle again. I don't know. Lou from Dade. Purdy looking like Joe Montana right now. Yeah. Well, Run CMC is, let's be honest here. McCaffrey is on another planet with what he's doing. So, rushing wise, not a huge year. Numbers somewhat comparable to Saquon Barkley, right? A little bit more yards and everything, but comparable. It's the receiving. He's been targeted 122 times out of the backfield. He leads the team in rushing yards, leads the team in receiving yards, targets, and receptions. He's got 2,069 yards from scrimmage and 399 touches. That is tops in the league on both ends, and he's got 17 total touchdowns. Pretty good. Yeah. They actually did have him throw a pass once too, but I mean, look, you can't take much away from Purdy. I still think he's more of a system guy than anything else. But his, his rate is 104.2. His QBR is 77.6, which is the highest in the league. So he's had, he's only played 8 games. He's got 2,040 yards. He's got 20 touchdowns. He has thrown 9 interceptions in those 8 games. But his touchdown percentage is 7.8, number 1 in the league. So while I do believe it is a system thing, he's performing well in the system. So you can't really take too much away from him. Back to the Birds, guys. Look, we're going to go into Washington. I would tell you, the coaching staff would be stupid not to scoreboard watch, okay? Because if it looks like it's not going to happen, if it looks like Detroit's just going to get smoked, you got to pull all of our guys off the field and you just accept the 3rd seed and move on. However, if it looks like the Bears are going to make it interesting against Detroit, then we're proving that we're going to go for it. And if that's the case, then I expect to win again. That Commode's team is not good. They're just not. Their defense is old, looking older by the minute. Jaden Daniels was never really able to stay on the field this year. Constant injuries. He's obviously shut down for the year. So, I mean, it's just like the overwhelming gap in talent between us and them. This is another one of those games where if you really go for it, you can get away with bad coaching and still win the football game. So in my mind, it's really all just going to depend on what Chicago does with Detroit, right? If they run out of the gates and they're blowing Detroit out, then, Nick, you just got to pull all the boys off the field, accept the 3, move on, and be done with it. But again, if for some reason Detroit runs out and they're off to a hot start, then we got to go for it, foot on the gas pedal, and try to lock down the 2 seed. They decided to go for it when they didn't pull anybody off the field yesterday. So that's the decision that's been made, and that's the one we're going to live with going forward. But yes, you'd be a dumbass if you are not, if you're coaching staff and you're not scoreboard watching. You'd have to be stupid. All right. We got about 10, 15 minutes left here, and we're going to move over to college football playoffs coming back into the fold here. I know this is not everybody's cup of tea. I get it. But I love it, so you're going to deal with it. Give me my bracket. So last week, or 2 weeks ago, I'm sorry, Mason and I did our picks for the first round. We both had Bama. We both had Texas A&M. I had A&M by double digits. Mason had A&M, but he thought Miami would cover. Good call by the kid. We both had Ole Miss, and we both had Oregon. So the only one we missed on was A&M. Now we move to the second round here, and this is where these things start to become bowl games, okay? So let's start with, there it is. We have one game on New Year's Eve. That is Miami against Ohio State at 7:30 p.m. That is the Goodyear Cotton Bowl. Okay, look, I picked against Miami first round against Texas A&M. I maybe bet with my heart, maybe picked with my heart a little bit more than my head. Texas A&M had a great year, right? They were home in College Station. It's a very tough place to go on the road. I figured they would get it done. What I didn't factor in enough is the fact that while Miami, not great, their defense is really good, and defense travels. And you saw that against A&M. Now, look, it took a late game end of the game interception to stop Tamu from tying it up, but they still did get that done and won that game in College Station 10-3. However, the Ohio State Buckeyes are a much different animal. Ohio State by 9.5, which might be aggressive with that Miami defense, but this is another one of these games where I don't think, if Miami's going to win, I think it's got to be ugly, like the Texas A&M game, low scoring, ugly. I can see Ohio State winning a close game, but I can also see Ohio State just murdering Miami. Matchup predictor has 70.5% in favor of Ohio State. I don't know how much you really want to pay attention to that shit. Get over to the preview here. Yeah, I don't know, guys. I think the pedigree, the experience, I think Ohio State is better coached. And you guys know I am a Penn State fan, so it's not like I have a whole lot of love lost for Ohio State here. But, Miami, nice season. Great win in that opening round at College Station. But I think it comes to an end this Wednesday night in this Cotton Bowl. And I think Ohio State wins. Not going to be surprised if they cover that 9.5 spread. I don't know how much they cover it by, but I mean, so they've got Ohio State by 9.5, and they're calling the over/under at only 43.5. They're really kind of telling you, Vegas is telling you that the Buckeyes are going to control the game, and I do believe that will be the case. Indiana showed you a blueprint, but can you execute same blueprint? One other thing to note with Ohio State, that loss to Indiana in the Big Ten championship, that was the first game they had lost since the game against Michigan last November. And we all remember what happened after that, right? We're like, oh, God, they lost that game to Michigan. They're going to look terrible in the playoff. And they ripped through the playoff and won the national championship. Not saying the same thing's going to happen again, but I do think they take care of business on Wednesday night. Sorry, Lou. It's not like I hate you here, bud. But I just don't see it, man. I think there's just too much firepower on that Ohio State team. Lou, come on, Canes, pull off the monster upset. Russ Taylor, can we get more of the Pop-Tarts Bowl and the fun? No, I don't need to see sprinkles on football helmets. Like, that's enough. Lou from Daytona, payback for 2002 when that ridiculously delayed yellow flag cost us trophy number 6 in the Natty. Yep, that was pretty brutal, dude. All right, so I will get Mason's picks before the games kick off. So I'm going to take Ohio State. Buckeyes, and I'm going to take them to cover. All right, now we move to New Year's Day. And the first game up on New Year's Day is Oregon at Texas Tech. You got Oregon by 2.5 in the Capital One Orange Bowl. Texas Tech, when they are rolling, might be the most complete team left in here, except for maybe Georgia. But they certainly looked the part in the Big 12 championship. Oregon, tough team, ranked number 5 overall in the country. They ended up the 5 seed in the playoff. They beat James Madison. Only, they didn't cover, but 51 points, right? So I'm not going to be surprised if this is a shootout. Matter of fact, I wonder what the over is on this one. Over at 51.5. So, yeah, I mean, I can see it. I am going to take Texas Tech and the points. It may be like a, 50-48 game, but I am going to take Texas Tech, and I'll take the 2.5 point. Is it Texas Tech? Yeah. Well, this says it opened at 1.5. Now it's 2.5. So I'll take the Red Raiders and the points. DTU plus 2.5. I really, it was a little bit of a scuffle to start with, but when they turned it on, when that Texas Tech team turned it on in the second half of that Big 12 championship game, and that was against the BYU team that a lot of people thought still should have been in this playoff even with that loss. And they came out and showed out in the freaking Pop-Tarts Bowl, but I was very impressed by the Red Raiders. The Oregon, I don't really know. I know they're Big Ten, but let's take a look at who'd you play? Montana State, Oklahoma State, Northwestern, Oregon State, Penn State. Penn State was number 3 in the country at the time. I get it, but we all saw what happened to Penn State, what they truly were. Then they're home against Indiana and got beat by 10. Then it's Rutgers, Wisconsin, a close win at Iowa, Minnesota, a 15-point win against USC, and then Washington. So, I mean, their signature win is the 42-27 win at home against USC. Right? I mean, they go to Iowa, 18-16 victory. It's just kind of how games go in Iowa. They yuck it up. It's gross. So it's a good win, but that USC game is the signature win. I can't count that Penn State win as a signature win. I get that Penn State was number 3 overall, but look at the body of work. Look what happened after the fact. We saw what Penn State really turned out to be. They were garbage, even before Drew Allen got hurt. So, and then, the top team on their schedule, Indiana, went to Eugene and beat them by double digits. So I don't, I mean, maybe you look at Texas Tech somewhat the same way. Let's see what their schedule was. The Big 12, it's not a conference specifically known for its defense. Arkansas, Pine Bluff, Kent State, Oregon. They had a 34-10 win versus Utah, Houston, Kansas, Arizona State, Oklahoma State. 29-7 win against BYU during the regular season, and then a 34-7 win against BYU in the Big 12 championship. So BYU, easily the best team on their schedule. They played them twice and beat them by a combined score of 73-14. I'd say advantage Red Raiders, and I'll take the 2.5 points and go that way. 4 p.m., we have the Rose Bowl, which is number 9, Alabama, at number 1, Indiana. This is the game that, look, Indiana, nice win in the Big Ten championship, right? Their signature win during the season was going to Eugene, Oregon, and beating the Ducks by 10. They also did go to Iowa and win a close, low-scoring game, just like Oregon did. But that win over Ohio State was enormous, right? Wasn't a pretty football game. Great defense being played. Mendoza, couldn't get much going. Neither could Julian Sane. So now they get Alabama, who is a team that we talked about 2 weeks ago, Mason and I, where it's like, Alabama's got more wins in the college football playoff era since 2014 than any team in the country. And all they've been hearing about is they didn't belong. Then they went to Norman, and they were down 17-0. They ended up winning that game. They from there on out, they outscored Oklahoma 34-7 in Oklahoma. Bama at Indiana. Look, if Indiana, and he got you giving 7 points. If we're going with the spread, I'm telling you, I'm taking Alabama. But if you just look at it straight up, I don't know, man. Indiana just still feels like that weird team. I just don't know what to make of them. Are they that team that went to Eugene and dropped 30 on the Ducks? Are they that team that couldn't really get it going offensively, but managed defensively to shut down a Heisman candidate quarterback and 2 stud wide receivers in Ohio State. I don't know. Bama, on the other hand, still playing. I think they still come out playing fast and loose. I think they're just still being told, "Oh yeah, you beat Oklahoma, great. You still didn't belong here." Blah blah blah. But here's a big chip on their shoulder. So we got the points here. I'm going to take Bama and the points. It's Bama +7. I just think that's too much. Won't surprise me if Indiana wins the game outright, and I am rooting for it. But if you want me to look at this and be like, what am I doing with the point spread? I'll take Bama plus the touchdown. And finally, we have Ole Miss against Georgia in the All-State Sugar Bowl. That is 8 p.m. on New Year's Day. Georgia by 6.5. Look, Ole Miss, they smoked Tulane in the first round, but I mean, anybody could have seen that coming. Tulane and James Madison, all Tulane and James Madison did by getting in there and getting wrecked is push this thing closer to that 16-team system that I've talked about the last few shows, where 4-4-2-2-1-3. 4 SEC, 4 Big Ten, 2 Big 12, 2 ACC, 1 Group of 5, that's your Tulane, James Madison, and 3 at-large bids. But for this year, look, Ole Miss, don't get me wrong, nice big win. You lost your head coach, although they are letting the offensive coordinator coach through the playoffs until he moves on to LSU with Lane Kiffin. But Georgia may very well be the best team in the country. And this Sugar Bowl is in their backyard. Ole Miss, nice season. It's a shame you lost your head coach. Lane Kiffin's a dick. We all know it. I will take the Bulldogs, and I will lay the 6.5. Dogs minus 6.5. I think the Dogs win this game by 10 or more. And that's the way I would look at it. So if all plays out right, I think you get the Buckeyes against I'm sorry, what was I doing here? Yeah, you end up with Texas Tech against Alabama. And then on the bottom side, you have Ohio State and Georgia. Look, the Alabama thing, I will be rooting for Indiana. And it won't surprise me if Indiana wins that game outright. I don't know if they cover 7. But they're certainly talented enough to beat Alabama. And I hope they do. But if you're going to give me a touchdown, I'll take the tie. So if we just look at it straight up, I would go Texas Tech, Indiana, Georgia, Ohio State. I would take the favorites across the board. And then you'd have Georgia against Ohio State, Texas Tech against Indiana. I would take Georgia over Ohio State. And then I would probably take Texas Tech over Indiana. I think if Texas Tech is able to knock off Oregon and keep them at bay, Texas, you're going to learn a lot about Texas Tech this week. If it's a straight-up shootout, 52-49 or something crazy like that, I feel a little less confident about picking them in the next round because they'll face a better defense and so on and so forth. But if they're able to come out and, say, beat Oregon, maybe 34-20, I'd feel pretty good about their chances to beat Alabama or Indiana. So the other side, it feels more cut and dry. I think Ohio State is clearly better than Miami, and I do think Georgia is better than Ole Miss. And then you get those two to lock horns in the Fiesta Bowl, and I would take Georgia over Ohio State at this point. That's the way I see it. All right, let's hop back over to the room one more time before we get out of here for the night. I heard there was a hurricane warning for the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Cotton Bowl, huh, brother? See what you did there. So, Mancini, whoever decided to rank Penn State 3 before the season needs to have their head checked. Agreed. That was atrocious. Terrible season. I am looking forward to the Matt Campbell era. One quick note about that for you folks that do root for Penn State, just like I do. Don't expect this to be and all of a sudden Matt Campbell's going to lead us to the playoff in the promised land. He's going to come in with a different system. He's not likely to have the players that he needs for said system. It's going to take some time. All right. Be patient. He's a good head coach. Did a great job at Iowa State. And now he's got a ton more recruiting power with a lot more NIL money to be able to be spent. So I would expect good things going forward for Penn State. All right, kids. That's going to wrap it up for us this week. I am going to get out of here. Mason and I will get back on the same page next week. This week didn't quite work out, so just my fat head for the night. We'll get back after it next week. So for all of you guys in the room and for all of you folks that listen later on, thank you very much for joining or listening. Come on back again next week when I've got Mason back with me. Until then, folks, this has been the Unhappy Gilmore Show, powered by Green Legion Radio, part of the Green Legion Radio family, and proudly sponsored by Cheerleaders Gentlemen's Club, located at 2740 South Front Street in Philadelphia. Call 215-467-1980 for all of your group and party information. Folks, be safe. Enjoy the New Year holiday coming up, right? Be safe with it, though, okay? I want to see you guys all back here again next week. I don't need any crazy shit happening. And I just want to say thank you very much. I know I put a post out last week and everything saying Merry Christmas and thanking you all for your support. But here we come to the end of 2025. I'd like to thank you all for another fantastic year. You guys are the absolute best. You are. You guys, I tell you all the time, especially when it comes to summer, we get those dead zones where there's really not a whole lot of content out there. You guys always bring it back in and help out with that. I love when the room takes on a life of its own. It's been my pleasure to be here. Keenan, look at same thing here. Thanks for another year of info and entertainment. Keep up the good work. Happy New Year to all the roommates. Go Birds. Thank you, sir. Very much appreciate that. You guys, again, take care. Have a happy New Year. Be safe. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. Remember now, there's a good chance that judge won't be back in until next Monday. And as always, folks, Happy New Year and go Birds. Take care. We love you.